It was early morning in a quiet town. The sun had just started to rise, touching the rooftops with a soft golden glow. Birds were singing, and the world seemed peaceful. But not for a young girl named Aisha. Her clothes were old, her hands rough from work, yet her heart was full of love. She lived with her sick mother in a tiny broken house at the end of the street. Every morning she went out to collect old bottles and cans so she could buy bread for her mother. It was the day before Father's Day, and while many children were planning to surprise their fathers with gifts and cards, Aisha had no father to celebrate with. He had passed away when she was just a little child. But she remembered him every year, sitting by the window and whispering, "Happy Father's Day, Papa." That morning, as she passed by the fancy side of town, she noticed a tall man standing near a black car in front of a big mansion. He looked rich. His suit was perfect, his shoes shiny, but there was something sad in his eyes. Aisha had seen him before. People called him Mr. Kareem, a billionaire who owned several companies. But everyone said he lived alone after his wife and son died in an accident years ago. Since then, he rarely smiled. He had everything in the world except happiness. Aisha stood across the street, watching him quietly. He looked at a group of children running toward their fathers, giving them small, handmade gifts. For a moment, she saw him smile, a weak, broken smile that disappeared quickly. Then he turned and went inside his car. That moment touched Aisha deeply. She whispered to herself, "He must miss his family just like I miss mine." She couldn't stop thinking about him all day. Even though she had nothing, she wanted to do something kind for the sad man. Not because he was rich, but because he looked lonely. That night, as she sat beside her mother, she told her what she saw. Her mother smiled softly and said, "Child, the greatest gift is one that comes from the heart. Even a small thing can bring light to someone's dark day." Those words stayed in Aisha's mind. She decided she would make a small Father's Day gift for the lonely billionaire. But what could a poor girl give to a man who already had everything? She thought about it all night, unable to sleep. Then she looked at her old box under the bed. Inside it were a few pieces of paper, some thread, and a small broken frame. She picked them up carefully. She took one piece of paper and began to draw with an old pencil. It was a picture of a father holding his child's hand under a bright sky. It wasn't perfect, but it was filled with love. She fixed the drawing into the broken frame and tied a small ribbon on top. Then with a quiet smile, she whispered, "This is for him. Maybe it will remind him that fathers are never forgotten." The next morning she got up early and went toward the big mansion again. Her heart was beating fast. She didn't know if the guards would let her in. She stood near the gate waiting. When she saw Mr. Kareem's car arrive, she ran forward carefully and said softly, "Sir, excuse me." The guard stepped forward, but Mr. Kareem stopped them. He looked down at the small girl standing in front of him, holding something wrapped in paper. "Yes, little one?" he asked, his voice quiet but distant. Aisha looked nervous, but she gathered courage and said, "Happy Father's Day, sir. I made this for you." She held out the small frame with both hands. Mr. Kareem was surprised. "For me?" he asked slowly. No one had wished him Father's Day in years. He took the gift gently. The edges of the frame were cracked, and the drawing was simple, but when he saw it, a father holding his child's hand, something inside him broke. His eyes filled with tears he didn't expect. "Why would you give this to me?" he asked. Aisha smiled shyly. "Because you looked sad yesterday. My papa is in heaven, but I still make a gift for him every year. Maybe you miss your family too, so I wanted to give you one." Her innocent words hit him like lightning. He couldn't speak for a moment. The world seemed to stop around him. No one had spoken to him with such honesty in years. He looked at her small, tired face and thought about how much love she carried in her heart, even though she had nothing. Finally, he said softly, "Thank you. This means more to me than anything money could buy." Aisha's eyes brightened with joy. She said, "I'm happy you liked it, sir," and turned to leave. But as she walked away, Mr. Kareem stood there, holding the drawing close to his chest. The sun rose behind him, casting warm light over his face. For the first time in years, he smiled, a real smile, not one for the cameras or the world. He looked at his driver and said quietly, "Find out where that girl lives." The driver nodded and started the car. Mr. Kareem sat silently, still holding the drawing. For him, this Father's Day was no longer about pain or loss. It was about a miracle. A small, poor girl had just reminded him of something he had forgotten long ago, how it felt to be loved. That night, Mr. Kareem couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his study, staring at the small handmade gift the poor girl had given him. The drawing of a father holding his child's hand felt alive, as if it was whispering something to his heart. For years, he had surrounded himself with expensive art and luxury, but none of it had ever made him feel this way. He gently touched the edges of the cracked frame, remembering his own son's small hands. He could almost hear his laughter again, echoing through the empty halls of his mansion. A deep ache filled his chest, but this time it wasn't just sadness. It was something new, something soft. Hope. The next morning, when his driver entered the room, Mr. Kareem spoke quietly. "Did you find the girl?" "Yes, sir," the driver replied. "Her name is Aisha. She lives with her mother in the old town area near the river. They're very poor, sir." Mr. Kareem nodded slowly. "Take me there." The driver looked surprised. "Sir, it's not a safe neighborhood." Mr. Kareem interrupted gently. "She walked all the way to give me this. I can walk a few steps for her." A few hours later, his car stopped near the small broken house. Children were playing on the street and the air smelled of dust and smoke. People turned to look as the expensive car parked nearby. But Mr. Kareem didn't care. He got out, holding the little frame in his hand. Aisha was sitting outside her house, mending an old bag. When she saw the car, her eyes widened. Then she saw him. "Sir?" she said softly, standing up quickly. Mr. Kareem smiled for the first time in front of her. "Yes, I came to thank you properly." Her mother, weak but kind-looking, came out to see what was happening. Mr. Kareem greeted her politely and said, "Your daughter gave me something priceless yesterday. I wanted to see where such a pure heart lives." Aisha's mother smiled shyly. "Sir, we didn't mean to disturb you. She only wanted to share kindness." He nodded. "She reminded me of something I had forgotten, that love still exists in this world." They invited him to sit on a small wooden chair outside. It was nothing compared to the luxurious sofas in his mansion, but somehow it felt more comfortable. He noticed the cracked walls, the old dishes, and the little shelf with a single candle. Everything was simple, yet peaceful. He asked softly, "Aisha, what do you dream of when you grow up?" She hesitated for a moment, then said, "I want to study, sir. I want to become a teacher so I can help other children like me. But my school costs money." Her voice fell at the last words. Mr. Kareem looked at her and saw his own son's reflection in her eyes, innocent, full of hope, yet trapped by circumstance. His throat tightened. He smiled gently. "If you promise me that you'll study hard, I'll take care of everything. Your school, your books, even your clothes. I'll help your mother too." Aisha froze for a second. "Really?" she whispered, unable to believe it. "Yes," he said warmly. "You gave me a gift from your heart. Now let me return a small part of that kindness." Tears filled her mother's eyes. "Sir, we can never repay you," she said. Mr. Kareem shook his head. "You already have. Yesterday your daughter gave me back my heart." There was silence for a moment, broken only by the sound of children laughing nearby. The moment felt pure, almost holy. From that day, everything began to change. Mr. Kareem arranged for Aisha's admission into a good school. He hired a doctor for her mother and made sure they had enough food and medicine. But more than that, he started visiting them often. At first, people were shocked. The billionaire who never smiled was now seen walking in the poor neighborhood, laughing with children, even helping them with small things. Slowly, the walls around his heart began to fall. Every time Aisha showed him her drawings or told him about school, he felt alive again. He hadn't realized how lonely he had become until she filled that silence with her innocent laughter. One afternoon, Aisha brought him a new drawing. It was of a tree, half dry, half green. On the green side, a small girl was watering it. "This is you, sir," she said proudly. "You were the dry tree, and love made you alive again." Mr. Kareem couldn't hold back his tears. "You're right, child," he said softly. "You gave me a new life." From then on, he started using his wealth differently. He opened a charity in memory of his wife and son, helping poor children go to school. He named it the Father's Promise. Every year on Father's Day, he would visit Aisha and celebrate not with luxury or parties, but with the children who reminded him of love. Years passed, and Aisha grew older, wiser, and stronger. Her mother's health improved, and their little house became warm and full of life. She continued to study, always guided by the kindness that changed her life. But even as things got better, she never forgot the day she gave a small gift to a sad man. She often said to herself, it wasn't just a gift. It was the beginning of two hearts healing together. And for Mr. Kareem, that Father's Day remained the day a miracle walked up to him, in the form of a poor girl with a pure heart. Years went by, and time changed many things, but not the bond between Mr. Kareem and Aisha. What had started as a small act of kindness had grown into something beautiful. Aisha was no longer the little girl who wandered streets collecting bottles. She was now a young student full of dreams and confidence. Every morning before leaving for school, she would stop by Mr. Kareem's mansion. She often brought him flowers from the small garden she and her mother had planted together. "For good luck," she would say with a bright smile. And every time he would smile back something he once thought he'd forgotten how to do. Mr. Kareem had changed completely. He no longer spent his days locked inside his office or his heart. He spent time helping poor families, building schools, and talking to children who had no one to guide them. Whenever reporters asked what made him start his charity, he would simply smile and say, "A small gift reminded me what love means." One day after school, Aisha ran to his mansion carrying a letter. "Sir, I have good news," she said, almost out of breath. Mr. Kareem was sitting in the garden reading. He looked up surprised. "What is it, my child?" "I came first in my class," she said proudly, handing him the paper. "And my teacher said I might get a scholarship next year." His eyes lit up with pride. "That's wonderful, Aisha. I knew you could do it." Aisha smiled, then looked thoughtful. "Sir, you believed in me when no one else did." "I don't know how to thank you." Mr. Kareem shook his head gently. "You already have many times. You gave me a reason to live again. Seeing you grow and smile is all the thanks I need." She looked down shyly, her heart full of warmth. As the years passed, Aisha's world continued to change. She graduated from school with excellent grades and wanted to become a teacher, just as she had once dreamed. Mr. Kareem made sure she got into a good college. He supported her not as a rich man helping a poor girl, but as a father guiding his child. One evening, Aisha sat with him in the same garden where they often talked. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. "Sir," she said softly, "do you ever think about your son?" Mr. Kareem paused. His eyes softened with emotion. "Every day," he said. "But when I see you, I feel like maybe God sent you to fill that empty space." Aisha's eyes watered. "And maybe God sent you to protect me, sir. You've done everything a father could do." He smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "Then I suppose that makes us family." From that day on, Aisha called him Uncle Kareem, but in her heart, he was something even more. A father figure, a guardian, a light in her darkest days. One winter morning, Aisha's mother fell ill again. The doctors said she needed a serious operation. Aisha was scared, but Mr. Kareem didn't waste a moment. He arranged the best doctors and stayed at the hospital every day until her mother recovered. Aisha never forgot that. She prayed for him every night, asking God to bless him for his kindness. After her mother's recovery, Aisha worked harder than ever. She completed her education and became a teacher at the same charity school that Mr. Kareem had built years earlier. The first day she stood before her class of small children, she felt tears in her eyes. She remembered how once she had been one of them, poor, hopeless, and scared, until someone believed in her. After school, she went straight to Mr. Kareem's office carrying a small gift box wrapped in colorful paper. He looked up as she entered and said with a smile, "You look very happy today." "I am," she said softly. "Today I became a teacher. The dream you made possible," he smiled proudly. "I knew this day would come." Aisha handed him the box. "This is for you." A thank you gift. He opened it carefully. Inside was a small frame, another drawing. It showed an older man and a young woman standing beside each other, smiling with children around them. Underneath it, she had written, "Real family is made by love, not blood." Mr. Kareem stared at it silently for a moment, then looked at her. His eyes filled with tears. "You always find a way to touch my heart," he said softly. Aisha smiled, blinking back her own tears. "You once told me love never dies. I just wanted to remind you that it's true." The room fell silent for a few seconds, not empty, but peaceful, filled with emotions words could not describe. From then on, Mr. Kareem and Aisha began working together. She helped manage the charity school, teaching children from poor families while he handled the funding and expansion. Together, they opened new centers in nearby towns. Their story spread quietly, inspiring others to help. People often said, "That girl changed a billionaire's life." But Aisha would always answer with a smile, "He changed mine too." Every Father's Day, Aisha brought him flowers and a new drawing, just like the first one. And every time he would hang it on the wall beside the old cracked frame that started it all. One evening, as the sun set behind the school building, Mr. Kareem looked at the children playing and whispered, This is the real miracle." Aisha stood beside him, smiling. "Yes, sir," she said softly. "It truly is." And in that moment, two souls, one once broken by loss, the other by poverty, when stood together, healed by love, kindness, and a single small gift that changed their lives forever. Years rolled on like gentle waves, and with them, life continued to blossom for both Aisha and Mr. Kareem. Their bond had grown deeper than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just the relationship of a kind man and a poor girl. It was the unspoken connection between two hearts that healed each other. The charity school they built together had now become one of the most respected institutions in the city. Hundreds of children who once had no hope were now studying, dreaming, and smiling again. Each corner of the school carried love, the kind that Aisha and Mr. Kareem had planted through their kindness. But time, as it always does, began to move a little faster. Mr. Kareem was getting older now. His hair had turned completely white and he often needed rest. Still, every morning he made sure to visit the school, sit in the small garden and watch the children play. That garden was his favorite place. The same spot where he and Aisha had once talked for hours about dreams, loss, and miracles. One afternoon, Aisha found him sitting quietly there, holding the old frame, the one she had gifted him many years ago, the very first drawing. She walked up softly and said, "You never stop looking at it, do you?" He smiled faintly. "It reminds me that life can change in one small moment, that even the smallest act of love can bring light to the darkest places." Aisha sat beside him and said, "You know, sir, every time I see these children smiling, I remember how my life changed because of one small gift, too." He nodded, and that gift saved two people, not one. There was silence for a while, broken only by the laughter of children nearby. Then Mr. Kareem turned to her and said gently, "Aisha, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." She looked at him, concerned. "What is it, sir?" He sighed softly. "I'm not as strong as I used to be. The doctors say my heart is getting weaker. I may not have many years left." Her face froze. "Please don't say that, sir," she whispered. "You're the strongest person I know." He smiled sadly. "We all have to go one day, my child. But I'm not afraid anymore, because I know I won't leave this world empty-handed. I have you and the love we built in this place." Tears filled Aisha's eyes. She held his hand tightly. "You'll always be here, sir. In this school, in every child who learns here, in every smile you created. You'll never be forgotten." He patted her hand gently. "Promise me something, Aisha. When I'm gone, take care of this place. Keep it alive. Keep helping children like the one you once were." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise." A few months passed and Mr. Kareem's health continued to weaken. Yet he never stopped visiting the school. Every Father's Day, Aisha still brought him flowers and a new drawing, just like she always did. That year, however, when she walked into his house holding her handmade gift, she found him sitting in his chair, peaceful and quiet, the drawing from the first Father's Day resting on his lap. He had fallen asleep forever, with a gentle smile on his face. Aisha dropped to her knees holding his hand, tears falling endlessly. But even in her sorrow, she felt something calm in her heart, a strange peace. She whispered, "You kept your promise, sir. You taught me that love never dies." The next day, the entire city came together to honor Mr. Karim. People from all walks of life, one rich and poor, young and old, gathered to say goodbye to the man who had changed so many lives. Aisha stood near his photograph, holding the old frame tightly against her chest. She didn't see him as a billionaire anymore. To her, he was a father, the one who gave her life again. In his will, Mr. Karim had left a letter for her. Inside it were simple words. "Aisha, you were the light that entered my darkest world. Continue this light. Let no child live without hope. You were my miracle. Now be someone else's," she cried as she read it, holding the letter close to her heart. After that day, Aisha made a promise to herself. She would keep the school running, expand it, and reach even more children, just as he had wished. She renamed the charity to the Karim Foundation, the Father's Promise. Every classroom wall carried a quote from him. "Love can change a life forever." Years later, when journalists visited her to document the incredible story of the foundation, they asked her how it all began. Aisha smiled softly and said, "It all started with a small drawing, and a gift that changed two hearts forever." She still kept the old cracked frame on her desk, the same one she had once made with broken pieces and a little ribbon. It reminded her of the day her life changed, and the day she unknowingly gave a miracle to someone who needed it the most. Every Father's Day, she would visit his grave, place fresh flowers, and whisper, "Happy Father's Day, sir." You're still here in every smile, in every dream, in every child you helped. And somewhere beyond the clouds, it felt as if a gentle wind whispered back, "Thank you, my child." Years went by after Mr. Karim's passing, but his presence never truly left Aisha's heart. His voice, his lessons, and his kindness continued to guide her every step. The school he built, once just a small dream, had now grown into a large educational foundation, helping thousands of poor children across the country. People often came to meet Aisha, calling her the girl who changed a billionaire's life. But she always smiled and replied softly, "He changed mine first." Every morning, she would walk through the garden where Mr. Karim once sat. The flowers he planted still bloomed beautifully. The children who played there reminded her of how far they had come, from one act of kindness to a movement that changed so many lives. One day, while she was teaching a class of young students, a little boy raised his hand. "Miss Aisha," he asked innocently, "how did you build this big school?" Aisha smiled warmly. "It all started with a gift," she said. A very small one, but given with a big heart. The children listened closely as she shared her story, not as a sad tale, but as a message of hope. She told them about the day she met a lonely man who had everything money could buy, but nothing his heart truly needed, and how a simple handmade gift brought light back into his life. The children sat in silence, their little hearts touched. When she finished, a small girl stood up and said, "Miss, one day I want to do something kind like that too." Aisha smiled and replied, "That's all it takes, one kind act to change the world." As years passed, the Karim Foundation expanded beyond her imagination. With the help of generous donors inspired by her story, new branches opened in villages and towns. They provided not just education, but food, clothes, and hope to countless families. On the 10th anniversary of Mr. Karim's passing, Aisha decided to hold a special event at the main school, a celebration of kindness. The walls were decorated with pictures of smiling children and quotes from Mr. Karim. At the center of the stage, she placed the old cracked frame, the same drawing she had given him so many years ago. It was worn out now, but to her it was priceless. The hall filled with guests, teachers, and students. Aisha walked to the stage, her eyes glistening as she began to speak. 10 years ago, she said softly, I gave a simple gift to a man I didn't know. I had nothing, not even money for food, but I had love to give. And that love changed both our lives, she paused, looking at the faces in the crowd, many of whom were children from poor backgrounds, now wearing clean uniforms and bright smiles. That man taught me that wealth isn't counted in money but in kindness, she continued. He showed me that one act of love can heal a broken heart and give birth to 1,000 more. The audience listened in silence, many wiping tears from their eyes. Aisha looked at the frame once more and smiled through her tears. This little gift started it all. It reminds me that miracles don't always fall from the sky. Sometimes we create them ourselves, with a kind heart and a giving soul. The crowd stood up in applause. The moment felt pure, almost spiritual. Somewhere deep inside, Aisha felt as if Mr. Karim was right there, smiling proudly, watching his promise being kept. After the event, as the evening light faded, Aisha walked to the small memorial garden behind the school. A marble bench stood there with words engraved, "Love can change a life forever." She placed a fresh bouquet of white flowers beside it and sat quietly for a while. The air was calm, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. She whispered softly, "Happy Father's Day, sir. Your light still shines." Just then, a gentle wind passed through the garden, brushing against her face. She closed her eyes and smiled, feeling his presence around her, not as a memory, but as a blessing. Years later, when people wrote articles and made documentaries about Aisha and the Karim Foundation, they always ended with the same line. It began with one poor girl, one small gift, and one broken heart that found healing through kindness. And even as the world changed, the story continued to inspire millions, teaching them that real miracles are born not from wealth or power, but from love, compassion, and a pure heart. Aisha grew older, but her spirit never faded. Every Father's Day, she gathered the children and told them the same story, about a lonely man, a little gift, and the miracle that changed both their worlds. The children would listen with shining eyes, and every year, one of them would make a small handmade drawing to hang beside the old frame in honor of Mr. Karim. Over the years, that wall filled with dozens of drawings, different hands, different colors, but the same message of love. And as the sun would set each Father's Day, Aisha would look at those drawings and whisper, "This is your gift, sir." It never ended. It just grew. The world often forgets names and faces, but stories like theirs never fade. Because kindness once given lives forever, and so, the story of a poor girl and a sad billionaire became more than just a tale. It became a Father's Day miracle that continued to touch hearts across generations.